We've got 8 juicy Am I the A-hole Reddit stories this week, starting it off hot with Am I the A-hole for not kicking out my roommate just because my girlfriend thinks he might be trans. This one I believe has a couple of updates to it. Am I the A-hole for not believing my boyfriend that suddenly became gay due to the altitude difference when he was on a work trip in Utah? That one's ridiculous. Am I the a-hole for being angry that my roommate was sleeping under my bed for months without telling me? Am I the a-hole for not wanting to forgive my parents who used to be amazing because of one mistake they made in the past? Am I the a-hole for giving my ring back after my fiance made a comment to his guy friends regarding why we haven't gotten married? Am I the a-hole for letting my kids loot my brother's house to prove my point? Am I the a-hole for getting my coworker fired after she kept trying to prove my service dog is fake? And finally, am I the a-hole for pretending I didn't know my ex? Juicy Reddit stories this week, guys. Let us know your opinions in chat if you're here live, or if you're watching the YouTube video, drop your opinions in the comments below. Am I the a-hole for not kicking out my roommate just because my girlfriend thinks he might be trans? I, 22 male, have a roommate, let's call him Alex, male 23, who moved in about 6 months ago. I honestly never considered Alex may be trans. Not that I would care if he was, but that's not the issue. He is a short guy and probably under 165 centimeters / 5'5". Has a lot of facial hair, muscles, and looks a lot like a short Henry Cavill, in my opinion. No one I know has ever brought up this idea before. I've had my friends and family at our apartment before. This is really the part that gets to me because my mom is extremely against any gay people, and if she sensed anything was up, she would have caused problems right away. Alex and I get along. We're polite, but not really friends. He's quiet, but super polite, always pays rent on time, helps with chores, and even shares his cooking with me. I appreciate having him around, especially because my last 3 roommates were each their own horror story. The issue came up when my girlfriend, let's call her Sarah, female 28, came over one day. Alex was shirtless. To clarify, I forgot to tell Alex that she was coming over, and she noticed the scars on his chest. After that, she was quiet and short with me her entire stay there. When she got home, she blew up my phone asking why I had a female living with me. I was confused and asked what she was on about. She says that she knows that his scars are from top surgery and that he is short, so he has to be trans and a born female. Chat, guess I'm a female. I guess any man who's 5'5" and below is just now a female. That cool. You know, you learn something new about yourself every day, I guess. I tried to explain that even if Alex is trans or a born female, that there's no way I'd be attracted to him because to any person who looked at him, you would see a freaking guy. Plus, he's respectful and doesn't cause drama like my last roommates, which she knows about. Just to be clear, I honestly still have no idea if Alex is even trans. I Googled it, and those scars could be from some other surgery, like heart surgery or gynecomastia. I probably fucking butchered that, but like, we're gonna keep going. And I really don't have an argument for him being short, but there is a lot of short men. That's me. At first, Sarah wanted me to just ask Alex if he was trans, which why the fuck would I do that or give her his last name so she can run a background check? I said no to both. Then she said this was a violation of trust and that if I didn't either find out if Alex is trans and kick him out, or just kick him out, that she would have to reevaluate things, basically threatening to break up. I said I don't do ultimatums and that we're done. Hey, yo, that's what I'm talking about. I didn't even have to say it, bro. That is the right move right there. Like, not only is it entirely inappropriate to ask someone that question, but on top of that, to threaten to break up with your partner because you don't trust them that they wouldn't do anything is just ridiculous. Since then, she's been messaging me every single day for over 2 weeks, even after I blocked her on everything because she wouldn't leave me alone. Pissed that I wouldn't do this small thing for her. She ranges from, "Are you fucking him?" to "Let's just talk," to "Why can't you at least give me closure and ask him?" to the most recent, her telling our mutual friend about the situation. My friend wants no part of this shit show. I didn't feel bad at first, but after talking about it online, I've had some people say I should have just asked my roommate if he was indeed trans just to keep the peace, or that I shouldn't have essentially picked my roommate who I've only had for about 6 months over my girlfriend of 5 years. I wonder if I am being unreasonable. I legitimately do not see how any straight dude could find Alex attractive, personally, but maybe I should have done something just to keep the peace. I think he's dying on the right hill here. It's disgustingly insecure. She's showing signs of transphobia. She clearly has insecurities and doesn't trust you to not sleep with this roommate. And on top of that, she wants you to go nuclear and kick them out of their home. I just feel like you could get a better girlfriend. All right, OP added this edit to answer some questions. Did you break up with her? Yes. During the text conversation, we broke up. I always told her I had one rule, that I don't do ultimatums. If she were to say, choose X or me, that I would leave. I put up with a lot of shit, verbal and physical, but I don't put up with that kind of bullshit. Ages. I was 17 and she was 22/23 when we got together. It's been a long time, so I'd have to look back to make sure. But yeah, I was for sure 17. We got together the day I turned 17. Yikes, yikes, yikes. Our anniversary is my birthday. We couldn't get together before then because of the age of consent in my state. Oh. Hey man, you were groomed. You were heavily groomed, dog. So she's a fucking groomer and a transphobe. This girl is like 0-2, bro. We couldn't get together before then because of the age of consent in my state, which I now get is really fucked up. I don't know if it helps, but we have known each other our entire lives. Nope, definitely makes it worse. My mom is her mom's best friend. When my mom worked, I would go over to Sarah's mom's house so I wasn't alone. We started talking and flirting when I was about 15 or 16, but didn't cross any physical lines until I turned 17 because I didn't want her to get arrested. I get that sounds bad, I really do, but at the time, I didn't see it as bad. Just in case it is asked, our moms encouraged it. If you're 22 and 23, you should not be hitting on a fucking 17-year-old. That's just ew. Why would you want to be with someone like that? I don't. I really don't. I didn't realize it was transphobia until some people here talked to me about it. I thought it was just her being jealous, but I get how fucked up it is now. Please understand I live in the Bible Belt. I didn't even know trans people existed until I was 16. My personal thoughts is that I don't see a problem with people being trans and transitioning. I think at the end of the day, it isn't my business. Is Alex trans? I have no clue. He could be, but he could have also had breast cancer, gyno, heart, lung, or any other kind of surgery. I used a photo from Google/Reddit because this whole time I personally thought he had gyno or something, but it's not my business. Is Alex safe? I'll talk to him when I get home and then talk to my landlord. I will change my gate code and also have her removed from the allowed guest list, and also ask my landlord to not let her in personally. She hasn't been too violent of a person in the past, but I also didn't know she was this insane in the past either. Yeah, I just have a feeling if OP's mom is really homophobic, odds are her best friend is also pretty homophobic, and this is the daughter of said best friend. Was there abuse? I feel like this has been kind of implied in some questions. I don't know. Has she insulted me? Yes. Has she been physical? Yes, but nothing crazy. Slapping, pushing, shoving, but never anything like punching or drawing blood. I mean, I don't even think this stuff is okay, but we don't gotta start that conversation right now. The photo is not actually Alex. I searched Google for gyno surgery photos and then found a Reddit post talking about it. I used it as reference for what I mean. Scarring under the chest and around the nipple area. I definitely wouldn't actually post a photo of Alex here, censored or not. I'm sorry for the confusion. Here's the source for full transparency. I'm actually kind of curious what this looks like. Oh, okay. I see. I'm just surprised it's never come up. I think it's pretty okay to casually ask, like, if someone has scars here. Like, I think it would be fine to be like, oh, bro, like, what's that from? You know? Like, I've asked my friends when I see scars on them, like, oh, is that from like a surgery? I mean, still don't think you have to ask, but I'm just surprised it hasn't come up. Why didn't you ask Alex about his scars? I have a few reasons. I personally wouldn't like it if someone asked me. Second, my mom has scars all around her body for different reasons and gets livid if you ask her about them. Third, probably the one that confuses people the most, I didn't really care enough to ask. I was curious, but I would just think, huh, and then went on with my business. I mean, that's probably the less nosy way to go about it. I'm nosy as fuck. I want to know. I also just think too, if you have good like repertoire with someone, like you can ask about that. I hate when people ask me about my scars. I mean, what kind of scars though, Prince of Darkness? There are certain scars you ask about and certain ones you don't. I think it's fine personally for me, but I guess I don't have any sensitive scars. Small update here. I talked to Alex. I got advice saying to be upfront and tell him what's up completely, hide the trans part, and that I just shouldn't tell him. I don't know if this was the right thing, but I just told him because once I was face to face with him, I couldn't really help but to do it. To clarify, I did not ask him about his scars or mention that specifically. I said my ex-girlfriend was under the impression he was a trans person, made sure to say I didn't care if he was or wasn't, and that I broke things off, changed the gate codes, and put her on the do not let in list. All that drama. Before even saying anything, he asked if I was okay. Like I said, he is a chill dude. He also not so subtly asked the same questions that a lot of comments asked, essentially if I was in an abusive situation. I told him I don't know, but whatever kind of situation it was over. The thing that really kind of fucked with me is that he called me his best friend. I regret not saying we were close in other comments. Oh no, oh, that's so sad. I realize now we have different definitions of close because he is introverted and I'm not. We talked about irrelevant stuff for a while and then the question came up. Would you care if I was trans? To summarize things, yes, Alex is trans mask. He had top surgery when he was 19 and has been on hormones since he was 18. He even has a tattoo with the date he started testosterone. While the idea that he could have been a dude with gyno, cancer, or something else is completely reasonable, it just happens that Alex is trans. And I don't care about that. Alex is Alex. I did show him the post and got permission to update things I would not have otherwise. He is also roaming this post somewhere, but probably won't comment. Okay, we got a couple notes here. Alex is going to help me out with finding some low cost or pay scale. Oh, now he's biting. Don't make me bite you. I'll bite you back, bitch. Trying to bite? Trying to bite fight? He's marking his scent on you, chat. That's him. That is currently being. Hey! Oh my god! What was that? Alex is going to help me out with finding some low cost or pay scale therapy because he personally hasn't heard good things about the college's therapy services. Like everyone else has said, yes, it was abuse. I see that. I will also hold higher standards for myself in the future. Alex sent me the information for the therapist he sees, and I'll contact them in the morning. The landlord knows there's a domestic incident, and I trust him when it comes to making sure my ex doesn't show up. The do not allow list was made in mind for this. I'm not ready to talk to my mom about this, but I hope with some therapy and time I will be. She knows something is going on, but she believes this is a break and not a breakup. Sorry if this sounds like rambling. It is. This has been a rough couple of weeks. My brain is fried and I'm tired. Keep in mind, I'm still a full-time student during this. I also have to keep my grades up for my grants, scholarships, government aid, etc. I do read all comments and even the not so good ones. I will try to respond more before I fall asleep tonight. But just know, even if I don't reply, I have read it and I appreciate all the advice, kicks in the rear, and the sympathy. Official update. I talked to a therapist Alex recommended. Normally, I would be on the waitlist until January, but due to the situation, the therapist referred me to one of his associates and I'll be seen as early as next week. I was also recommended to attend to a domestic violence support group that gathers once a month. I was originally not going to go because the idea was uncomfortable as fuck, but Alex said he'll go with me, so at least I'll know someone there and we can leave if it's too weird for me. My mom is aware of the breakup. She is not too happy. I did not mention the trans part. I said that Sarah was being controlling and I didn't want to put up with it anymore. Got the usual, that's a normal part of any relationship comments, but I stood my ground. My mom seems to be under the same delusion as Sarah that this was a small argument or something and we will get back together. But that is absolutely not happening. I don't really talk to Sarah's mom, so I don't know her thoughts on the matter. The landlord is aware of the situation and will not let Sarah in, should she try to show up. If you don't have the gate code, you have to go to the main office and the employee, landlord's son, will buzz the person in if they are on your accepted people's list, or call the tenant and ask if they aren't on the list. If the individual is on the do not let in list, especially if it involves a criminal matter, they will be asked to leave. If they don't leave, then it becomes trespassing. I know this sounds like a lot, but the security is why a lot of people live here. Notes after reading some comments. I'm sorry for trivializing my abuse. It still feels weird to say abuse, but I do know that it is abuse. Slapping, pushing, and shoving is physical abuse, and if another person came up and told me their partner was doing that, I would call it abuse. It's not that I don't think women can be abusive, but as I said in one of the comments, I don't view it as abuse when it's towards me. This is probably due to being abused by my mom, which I am going to get help for. For reference, when I mention my mom's abuse, it's why I'm low contact with her. The reason why I was extremely underweight as a kid is because she would just straight up didn't feed me a lot of the time. CPS got called a lot but never did anything. They also didn't take any claims by my teachers that I was being abused as creditable because there were no marks or bruises, which has warped my view on abuse. Going forward, if I date again, then I won't put up with any physical or verbal abuse. A couple of comments helped by saying that if I was confused on if it was wrong, to think about it if it was another person going through it, which has been helpful in what I feel is right and wrong treatment towards me. After a lot of talking, it turns out Alex and I have been friends this whole time, but because I've never had an introvert friend before, I didn't exactly realize. Alex says he didn't want to annoy me by trying to chat with me all the time, which ironically is what I was feeling. Now we're going to hang out more, and he is trying to get me to join the D&D game he is in. It's crazy how the things that you overlook with your parents can turn into things that you overlook in your own partners. Am I the a-hole for not believing my boyfriend that suddenly became gay due to the altitude difference when he was on a work trip in Utah? I can hardly believe that I am writing this or that it happened, but I am, and it did. So here we go. I, 28 female, have been with my boyfriend, 29 male, for 3 years. Every now and then he has to go to Utah for a few days because his team has a customer service branch that operates out there. I got a text from one of his coworkers who has become a friend of ours, and it said that on the trip, my boyfriend cheated on me with some guy on the customer care team. I did not believe it at first because, first of all, my boyfriend has always identified as straight. And second of all, I just couldn't believe it. When he got home, I asked him about it, basically expecting him to confirm it was nonsense. Instead, he got real quiet and had us sit down and said he had to tell me something. He said it was true. He did have a one-night stand with a guy. I couldn't believe it. I asked him if he was telling me he was gay or bisexual, and regardless, cheating is cheating. He insisted he was not gay at all, but the strangest thing happened. He said that when he was at dinner with his Utah coworkers, he suddenly became gay. I was like, what? What the fuck? He said he thinks it was due to the altitude. Oh my God, that's crazy work. Like, this isn't even a lie. He could have just lied and been like, oh no, that didn't happen. But instead, he's acknowledging it happened. Men really will do anything but admit that they kind of like dudes. I was like, you're fucking with me, right? But he said after he had done it with this guy, he got really confused as to how all of a sudden he was gay. He said that higher altitudes can have an impact on how people think and on their emotions. And he thinks that the high altitude made him gay temporarily. He said that as soon as he landed back at home, he was back to being straight. I was like, did he get drugged or something? But he said that that was not possible. They were always in a group at dinner, which is when he became gay and was only alone with the guy afterwards. He said he had done a lot of thinking on the drive back from the airport, and he confirmed within himself that he is straight, and that his only conclusion could be that he was temporarily turned gay due to the altitude. I think he genuinely believes this, chat. I think he genuinely is like, this is what happened. It's the only explanation. That's so insane. I was like, whatever, I guess we are breaking up. He looked at me confused. I was like, gay or not, you did cheat on me. He said it wasn't his fault and that human actions are just a byproduct of accidental brain chemistry. Oh my God. Oh my God. Chad, I think I would lose my mind. Someone says this to me, put me in a fucking psych ward. Human actions are just a byproduct of accidental brain chemistry. I just want that on a fucking t-shirt, and that his chemistry had been altered through no fault of his own due to the higher altitudes of Utah. He said he couldn't believe I would blame him for something medical and scientific that was out of his control. He really looked bewildered that I was angry about this. I don't know, maybe he's convincing and I'm a rube, but I'm also starting to wonder if I'm overreacting. Like, I know it sounds insane, but is it possible to accidentally change your sexual orientation due to emotional changes brought on by altitude? Is that possible? And if it is, am I overreacting? Should I throw away a 3-year relationship for this? He's acting like I'm being rude and weird. I'm confused. This woman has been gaslit, bro. For her to actually be like, am I wrong? Is fucking wild. By that logic, anyone flying in a plane becomes gay for the duration of the flight. That's a really good point, bro. What a clown of a story, bro. I can't believe that, bro. I mean, not the a-hole. That was a given after like the first paragraph. Even if you experience spontaneous gayness, you still shouldn't cheat on your girlfriend. Am I the a-hole for being angry that my roommate was sleeping under my bed for months without telling me? I, 24 male, have lived with my roommate Carl, 24 male, for 2 years. A few months into rooming with him, he told me he was a pansexual. I said, okay, cool. I am not interested in that personal information, nor am I judgmental. I said, all right. A few times over the last year, he has asked me if I had ever considered experimenting with other men. I said, nope. Also, I said I didn't feel comfortable with him asking me such a personal question. It's not like we're close friends. We are only roommates by happenstance, basically. Anyway, every time I said this, he basically said, we'll see. I was like, what? That is creepy. That is not the right response to that. Anyways, last night I had a horrifying experience. I heard a noise under my bed. It was movement. At first I thought I was imagining things, but then I heard it again. I thought, oh God, is it a mouse or a rat or some shit? My God. This was like 3 a.m. So I got out of bed and looked under with my phone flashlight. Now this here was the most startling moment of my life. I guess I am lucky because I have never before this moment felt true terror and fear as a physical sensation, but I was completely jolted. There under my bed was my roommate staring wide-eyed at me, and he screeched when I looked under the bed. Talk about a goddamn nightmare. That is terrifying, bro. That has to be level 9,000, the worst thing that could ever happen to somebody. I literally thought I was having a heart attack. I then just started hearing, sorry, 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 sorry. My roommate crawled out from under the bed, crying, apologizing over and over. I was so creeped out and afraid that I ran out of the apartment in my pajamas. There was a Dunkin' Donut that was open 24/7 a few blocks away, so I just sat in there with a decaf and a breakfast sandwich with my heart thundering away. My roommate kept texting me asking to talk. I ignored it. In the text, he found a way to horrify me further. He confessed he had been sleeping under my bed a few nights a week for 3 or 4 months, and that he was doing it to get closer to me and physically saturate each other. The fuck? No, dead ass? What the hell? What does physically saturate each other even mean? Cause something to be thoroughly soaked with liquid so that no more can be absorbed. I really hope that's not what he means. What is he fucking trying to say? I'm so disgusted. I waited for him to go to work and I ran into the apartment, got my essentials and left. I am currently crashing with a buddy. Our lease is up in 1 month. My intention is simply to not renew. This dude is blowing up my phone and I'm getting texts from other people, some friends of mine, and some bozos who are friends with him. He is going around telling people I shamed him and that I'm rejecting his apologies. You know, man, I think this is a perfectly okay thing to shame someone for and reject their apology, because what the actual fuck? Some people are claiming I am overreacting and invalidating his feelings. Respectfully, those people can die. Like, I did send creepy ass homeboy to go sleep under their bed for a couple of months and see if they feel the same way. Most people agree he was improper, but think I should work it out with him and give a second chance because he's sensitive. I feel like I am losing my mind and I am seriously 20% convinced I am experiencing a long lucid dream of some sort and wondering if I'm going to wake up or I am in a coma or something, because this shit is so insane to me. Like, not really, but maybe really? I mean, what the fuck? That is an IRL get out situation, because what the actual hell? Not the a-hole, bro. I hope you're safe. Never go back there. Only go back there when he's not at the apartment and disconnect. Not only from him, but the people justifying his actions and saying they're not that bad. That is the craziest thing I've ever heard. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to forgive my parents, who used to be amazing, because of one mistake they made in the past? Growing up, my parents used to be these amazing parents who were very attentive and caring to me and my siblings, except with an exception, that the two of them would always have their phones on Do Not Disturb from 10 p.m. to 7 a.m. And they told us it's because they value their free time and sleep and don't want to be disturbed during the night, which was okay at first until I was stuck in a situation where I really needed their help. Around 3 years ago, when I was 18, I got this job as a server where I would work until 1 a.m. and I was expected to drive myself home. However, one day I got into a car accident after work and got pretty badly injured, to the point that I'll never fully recover to this day, as I now have life-lasting injuries and is considered as disabled. And I was hoping that, just this once, my parents would answer me, because I was scared and wanted someone close to me to be there for me. But as expected, it automatically went to voicemail and they never picked up. And that night, I also called other family members to ask them to contact my family or to come with me. And the only ones who was willing to come to see me immediately was my grandparents. And they also tried to call my parents as well, but as expected, they couldn't reach them either. So it wasn't until around the next day at 7 a.m. where my parents finally heard what happened to me. But by then, I had already felt like it was too late because they wouldn't respond after so long. And I was already out of surgery and awake by the time my parents finally came to the hospital, so I never felt like I really got their support because I already did with my grandparents who was there for me from the start. And ever since then, I couldn't think about my parents as amazing anymore, and I couldn't forgive them for making me feel so abandoned. Even if I knew that they would never pick up their phones in the middle of the night because they told me so beforehand. And ever since then, I was distant and refused to let them do anything with me, like taking me to physical therapy or my doctor's appointment. And I only wanted my grandparents' help. And within the first month, after recovering enough to finally be able to go find another job that accommodated my disabilities and make enough money, I finally moved out of my parents' house and went no contact with them. And my parents and grandparents seem to have an issue with that because they are telling me that I'm being too harsh, especially since my parents profusely apologized and promised to keep their phones available at all times. And I know they have kept their promise to this day, since I know from my siblings that they can call them in the middle of the night and my parents would now answer the phone even if it's past 10 p.m. However, that one event is something I feel like I can never forgive them for, and while I feel bad for making my grandparents sad for not wanting to forgive my parents, I can't bring myself to do so after they made me feel so abandoned. I personally think you're the a-hole. Don't get me wrong, you should be available to your kids at all times. This is all speculation, but it almost sounds like when something terrible happens to somebody, you're almost looking for someone to blame, and it seems like the person that she's putting the blame on, so to speak, are her parents. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't have been there for her. Like, maybe this isn't a you're the a-hole, maybe this isn't everyone sucks here, because I do think the parents do suck for not being available to their kids at any moment for a phone call, but I don't think that's no contact worthy. To me, that seems like an overreaction. I get it, they should have been there. I think you should be a little upset with them. I think that's a sit down with a therapist and talk about how much it hurt you that they weren't there for you. And like, because of this incident, there can never be a time where I can't call you and not be able to reach you. But I think no contact I think that's over the top. I'm definitely in the minority here. Everybody in the comments is saying not the a-hole. There is an edit on this post to answer the questions relating to why my grandparents didn't just go to my parents' house directly. It was because they felt like they needed to stay in the hospital for me throughout the whole 6 hours my parents couldn't be there for me. When it came to my injuries, I was in a serious enough condition where I wasn't completely conscious enough, as in going in and out of consciousness, to make decisions on my own. So my grandparents had to be the one to directly talk to the medical staff on my behalf during the times that I couldn't. And about why I couldn't just call my siblings or why no one bothered to call them, it was because my siblings were too young to be contacted. I won't explain the complications of my family life, but I'm the oldest of 4, but I have a rather big age gap from me and my sibling, who is the second oldest, which is an 8-year gap, which meant that by the time this happened, my siblings were about 10 years old when this happened. And the other 2 were 5 years and one that was barely 1 year old, 11 months to be exact. And I don't think that anyone would want to call a 10-year-old about begging them for their parents to get to the hospital, because their oldest sibling is dying in the hospital. It would have been too traumatizing for a young child like them to hear that. I still want to stick with my guns here. I think, did your parents fuck up? Yes. Is this no contact worthy? No, I don't think so. Am I the a-hole for giving my ring back after my fiance made a comment to his guy friends regarding why we haven't got married? My fiance and I, both 30, have been together for 8 years and engaged for 4 years. We got engaged right before COVID really hit, and obviously that put a huge halt on any sort of planning. And then from there forward, life events halted it more. Became homeless, ended up pregnant and having our child. Now we are back on our feet, but not financially where we could be yet. Back roughly 5 months ago-ish, I brought up marriage and basically approached the idea of having a backyard wedding and a potluck. Basically going cheap because I don't really care so much about the wedding or price or whatever. I just want to wear a pretty dress and have all eyes on me and get married to the love of my life. I don't care about the expensive bells and whistles. When I brought it up, he told me that that wouldn't be a bad idea and that we could probably try planning for July-ish 2025. Okay, but we haven't really talked about it since that point, as other shit came up. Here's the issue though. Back about a month ago, we were down to our neighbor's home, people who have grown to be really good friends since we moved out here 1.5 years ago. I was hanging out with the neighbor's wife and her best friend. My fiance was hanging out with a group of 3 to 4 guys, having beers and working on vehicles. Well, one of the guys was there talking about his wife and said, once you get married, everything effing stops. I overheard in the middle of the conversation, so I have no idea what stops during marriage, but it was a negative comment irregardless. But anyways, my fiance then starts laughing and goes, "That's why I've been dragging my feet on marriage." And the guys just laughed and said, "Don't do it, man. It's a trap," etc., etc. It really hurt me, but I figured it was just locker room talk, and I tried my best to move on. But like, I couldn't let it go. It sat in the back of my head. So a couple of weeks ago, I brought up getting married again and just ran some ideas by him on simple things, like what he saw our wedding colors being. And he shut it down a bit and said something to the effect of, "I think we need to weigh the pros and cons of being married first," and shut down the conversation. Instant plunge to my gut, honestly. So I walk outside to calm myself down, but I couldn't shake it. So I went back inside and calmly handed him my ring back and asked him what he wanted for dinner. I didn't want to make a big deal, so there was no yelling, no crying, nothing. I was calm and moved on. But he instantly asked me what I was doing and why I gave the ring back. So I mentioned his comment to his buddies about dragging his feet, and now his comments about needing to wait and weigh pros and cons before going through with anything. And told him I don't want to wait, nor do I want to get my hopes up for a marriage that he's clearly changed his mind about. So I would rather he have the ring back and go into this without the sound of wedding bells in my head. Let's just move on, basically. We can still be together, but I don't want my hopes up. Well, he got extremely defensive, started saying, "I'm not saying it's not going to happen," or "You're being extreme for no reason." Chat, I'm not saying I was making assumptions here, but the women were hanging out and the men were working on vehicles. We all know what type of men those were, you know? Those are the type of men who don't do foreplay. I really do want to go with not the a-hole because she sounds like she's with a trash man. I will say at this line right here, she was like, "I didn't want to make a big deal out of it. No yelling, screaming. So I just handed him the ring back." Like, you knew exactly what was going to happen. Honestly, that was the most nuclear option that you could have done there. I'm gonna still go with not the a-hole because clearly this dude has some major fuck shit going on in the background that you should absolutely investigate. But after he says, "I think we need to weigh the pros and cons of being married first," the answer isn't to go outside and then come back inside and give him the ring. The answer is to really push, "Okay, hold on. What do you mean by that? You're not getting dinner until we talk about what you mean weigh the pros and cons of getting married when we've been together for 8 years. That's what you should do. Am I the a-hole for letting my kids loot my brother's house to prove my point? My brother and his family came for a visit last month. My kids and I play with Legos, and we have fun leaving little dioramas around my house. Just silly stuff like a fight between Iron Man and Darth Vader on the Loot Llama. It's just our way of leaving Easter eggs around the house. That has to be the cutest fucking thing I've ever heard of. New goals for when I have kids. My nephew really liked them and decided to take a few home. When we noticed they were missing, I asked my brother to bring them back. He said that it was just kids being kids and that he would give them back the next time we saw each other. I saw him for coffee and I reminded him beforehand that I wanted all of our stuff back. He forgot to bring the toys. Okay, game on. We went over to his place for a barbecue. I told my kids that unless our stuff was returned to us, when we got there, literally anything in the house was fair game. Like the godless barbarians they are, they went to town. When we left, I don't think there were any remotes, small electronics, or beer mugs left at his house. I actually had to sneak the dog back into the house before we left. Damn. Taking the dog is crazy, but also that would be so funny. I actually had to sneak the dog back into the house before we left. I started getting calls on our way home. I ignored them. When I got home, I returned his calls. He said a bunch of stuff was missing from his house. I said I would check with the kids. He said that I effing well knew what happened and that he wanted his shit back. I said I would box it up and return it the next time we saw each other, as long as we got our Legos back. He was at my house with my Legos later that evening. He had even accidentally included stuff that wasn't ours. I returned it and his stuff. I told him that this is how we would be dealing with his kids in the future. He is pissed off that he had to make a special trip to return my stuff. My parents think that there is a huge difference between an 8-year-old taking Lego minifigures and a couple of teenagers pillaging their uncle's house. Am I the a-hole? I'm trying to decide, chat. I don't think it's a great move to encourage stealing in little kids. That being said, even if that argument is somewhat merited, it's different when they're teenagers and they're able to understand like, oh, this is a prank that we're pulling on our uncle. So even with that the case, I still think karma's a bitch, bro. bro. Like, not the a-hole. For something as little as this, fighting fire with fire is okay. And they absolutely got the point across. It's so immature. OP is very silly, but it is a little funny. I agree with you there, Cat. Could he have gone about this in a more mature way? Yes. Did anybody really get hurt here? No. So I don't really feel like it's the end of the world or OP shouldn't have been petty. I say be petty, bro. Am I the a-hole for getting my coworker fired after she kept trying to prove my service dog is fake? I have a medical alert service dog named Max who helps with a serious heart condition. He's literally saved my life multiple times by alerting before I pass out. I started a new office job 3 months ago and everything was fine until, let's call her Karen, started her crusade against Max. This isn't Max, but here's an idea of how he'd look on the job. Oh my God, we get to see a cute puppy photo. Let's see it. Oh, what a polite boy. It started small. She'd loudly announce pets aren't allowed in the office every time she saw us. I explained repeatedly that Max is a service dog, not a pet, and showed her his documentation. She then started telling everyone I was obviously faking because I look too young to be disabled. Ah, yes, because disabled definitely has an age cutoff. God, I fucking hate people sometimes. Things escalated fast. She'd try to test Max by dropping food near him. He's trained to ignore it. She reported me to HR weekly. But the worst part, she started purposely wearing strong perfume and spraying air freshener around my desk, which triggers my condition. Max alerted 3 times in 1 day because of this. First off, what a terrible condition to have where like air freshener can trigger it. Second, report her to HR. Like what is this? She's literally like trying to kill you. This is HR worthy. The final straw, I found out she was taking photos of me and Max and posting them in a Facebook group about fake service dogs, asking for ways to expose me. She included my full name and workplace. If before wasn't HR worthy, this is. She's literally doxing them. I took screenshots and went to HR. They fired her on the spot for harassment and creating a hostile work environment. Now my inbox is flooded with messages from her friends and family saying I'm the a-hole for getting a mother of 3 fired over a dog and that I should have just worked from home if I'm so sick. Here's the thing. I actually feel horrible that she lost her job. Her kids aren't at fault here, but she literally put my life at risk with the perfume stunts, and doxing me online was scary. Listen, bro, one day these kids are gonna know their mom's fucking crazy. Until then, she birthed them. They're just gonna have to deal with that. Like, not the a-hole, man. And you should absolutely not feel bad about that. Is it horrible her kids have to deal with a shitty mom like that? Yes, but that doesn't mean that you should deal with someone who's trying to kill you and dox you to people that clearly hate people like you who are disabled. Am I the a-hole for pretending I didn't know my ex? Before we get into the last story, if you've gotten this far in the video, I'm guessing you're enjoying it. And if you want to enjoy all my future uploads, make sure to hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any videos in the future. Also, if you'd like to be here live for those Reddit reads, go and check out my Twitch. Link should be in the description. I usually go live every Thursday and Sunday reading Reddit stories from Am I the A-hole and Best of Redditor updates. Join us for those lives and even get a chance to be featured in videos just like this one. I, 29 female, was in a secret relationship with Shane, 27 male, for 2 years. Secret relationship in your 20s. Why and what the fuck does that look like? The relationship was a normal relationship, except nobody knew about it. Because I'm a bigger girl and I've never been in a relationship, I didn't push the issue. After 2 years of Shane living with me, I came home to all of his belongings gone. I tried to call him, but he blocked my phone number and blocked me on Snapchat. He completely ghosted me. I find out through a mutual friend that he was in a public relationship with a woman named Jess. It hurt, but I couldn't change anything, so I just accepted it. Listen, chat, if any of you guys are in a secret relationship, get out of that. There are very few cases where the word secret should go in front of the word relationship. 3 weeks ago, a year after he ghosted me, I heard he was supposed to marry Jess, but he caught her cheating. I also heard that his grandfather passed away last month. Last night, I ran into him at the grocery store. He walked up to me and said, "Hey, how have you been?" I looked at him funny and said, "I'm sorry, do I know you?" He was stunned. After a second, I walked past him and continued on my way. Yo, that relationship's still secret, bro. I told a mutual friend who said that I was cruel and mean for doing that when he's going through a rough time. That friend doesn't know about the secret relationship. Nah, bitch, he deserved that shit. Some added details. The friends in my friend group know that me and Shane no longer speak and that we dislike each other. I haven't told them the truth because they wouldn't believe me. Shane is very attractive and I'm fat. Also, I'm pretty embarrassed about falling for it and being so desperate for affection that I just accepted how I was treated. I feel kind of bad because in my anger, I forgot what he was going through. He was very close to his grandpa. Listen, bro, RIP to his grandpa. That being said, fuck that. Like, this man, I would argue, manipulated you and then ended your relationship in the worst way possible, cheating on you and ghosting you. He don't deserve jack shit from you. Also, a small little update. He sent me a friend request on Facebook. I blocked him. As you should, bro. Build up that self-respect. And this is where it starts. Start shoving it back in his face and blocking him on Facebook. I support this, bro, not the a-hole. The only way you could possibly be the a-hole is if you let this motherfucker play you again.